Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Popular Liberty. Going to give people a few minutes to join the chat. And I wanted to talk to y'all today about a fast I just did. The so a few days ago, starting at last Friday night, decided that I was going to do another fast. This is a practice that I started doing probably like 1 to 2 years ago, and this is a major thing for my health that I do, and it's part of it's also partly spiritual as well. But the the howdy, Caleb. How you doing? So, like, I wanted to talk to you guys about like why I think this should be a part of every right wingers toolkit for personal development. Because I think that I spend a lot of time talking about the collective practice, what of what we're going to be doing together, and why we would what what the strategy is going to be for us doing the stuff to get engaging in politics together. But I think what gets glossed over a lot is something that Matt has started to talk about quite a lot. That the you know i- if we don't if your own person is if your life's just a mess, you can't do you can't be reliable politically. That's the you have to take care of your own health. You have to take care of your own finances. You have to take care of all your income and stuff like that first. And if you don't have all of that stuff in order, you really should not be engaging in politics. And so and that's something that I think a lot of young libertarians really underestimate. Yeah, they underestimate how important that stuff is, and they spend their early 20s not focused on that stuff. And those are like some of the most important years of your life, and when you're still forging your path, because once you get into your 30s, it's tough to change stuff like that anymore. It's tough to change. It's tough to it gets tougher to change the trajectory your life is going on the older you get. And that's just a simple fact. And that's true of everything. That's true of your health. It's true of your finances. It's true of your relationships. By the way, it gets very difficult to find good wives the longer you wait. All of the best, husbands and all the best wives are the ones who get married first every single time. No exceptions. And so if you're in your like mid 30s, early to mid 30s, and you don't have even like a girlfriend or something like that yet, you need to quit politics. And yeah, there's important stuff going on right now, but you need to quit that stuff and move on to like finding a wife, starting a family, and all that stuff. And if your life's this is kind of like what Jordan Peterson always says, where you need to clean your own room first before you go trying to change the world. And I really think part of that deals a lot with your health. If you and like if you are not a healthy person and you are not like in the best shape you possibly could be in, that's going to be a real drawback for you. That's going to hurt your personal development at every step of the way, because you can't think right. You don't have energy for all these extra things you need to be doing. You don't have a good you need to be attractive in order to attract a woman. That's just a fact. And your appearance is something that's well within your control. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, maybe you got like a shit, some shit genes, but that's not actually that much. Unless you got like some real thyroid issue or something like that, which is inalterable, you can do and you can overcome that. You can overcome just fat genes or whatever. No, that I say that as like a former fat kid. Like, yeah, I used to be very, very hefty. And one of the things that really helped me, and particularly in the past few years, in maintaining my weight and in maintaining my mental health, and repairing my repairing my body, has been dry fasting. And this is something a book that I read. It goes through a more scientific method for how you do a dry fast. How you go 48 hours no food, no water, with relatively minor symptoms. And the what the reason it's good for you is that your body is not designed to be actually eating, 3 square meals a day. Like for, in all of human history, except for like the last, maybe 200 or 300 years, that simply wasn't a thing. Like there were long periods of time where you were like the default was intermittent fasting. And like in other words, you would be going like a good, 16 to 20 hours a day with no food. And you would have to work, like that. And and that was just normal. And you go back even further into human history, there would be multiple days at a time where you did not have, any food, and you might not even have water. And that was normal. Your body is designed and adapted to do that. And so now you fast forward into the 21st century, where where you can have all kinds of food you want from all over the world, within minutes. That's something that our body is not designed for. And what happens is you don't get, when you're eating 3 square meals a day, what happens is that your body does not get time, your intestines particularly do not get time to rest. Your body, digestion is the most caloric intensive process we do. And it is so intensive that we have to our body has to shut down a lot of other repair processes, when it's in digestion, because it can't function that way. And so when you have these these 3 square meals, what happens is that your body is not getting the repair time it needs in order to function. It's not doing the proper, you're going to have cells that, grow up, and and they're just dysfunctional because, normally they would have been cleaned out. They would not be taking up resources and, doing a shoddy job of the work they're supposed to be doing. And this is something that when you dry fast, you turn on a process called autophagy, which means self eating. It's when your body will go in and start cleaning its own cells out. And it will start, try, trying to, it can identify very quickly the cells that have problems and that really need to be cleaned out. And what will happen is, your body will start, breaking those cells down and cannibalizing them for food. And so that, and this is, something that's extremely anti-cancer. And this is an when you're dry fasting, you're in anti-cancer mode. And because a lot of those cancer cells, the reason that they're so adversely affected by dry fasting is that they are not able to create, like at least nearly all of them. Some cancers can do it, but nearly all of them cannot create metabolic water. Now, what metabolic water is when your body can take your own fat cells and, just cleave off the triglycerides and cleave off those hydrogens on the long triglyceride tails, and it will turn those hydrogens, combine it with oxygen and turn it into metabolic water. There's no water on Earth that is as pure as metabolic water, because you can't even create this kind of purity in a lab. This is like the water of life. It really is. And you cannot get this kind of purity of water anywhere. And your normal cells, all of them can do this, and where they can turn fat cells into water. And it's about 100 for every 110 grams of fat, you can create about 100 grams of water. And so when you have something like that, like this process, and your cancer cells can't do it, and cancer cells, they also need a very steady stream of sugar and proteins in order for them to survive. You take that away, and the cancer will die. And a lot of chemotherapy drugs actually will target, those glucose receptors on the cancer and try to block them, so in order to starve the cancer cell. And so when you are dry fasting, you also take away their food source. So not only are you taking away their water source, which they need and cannot produce for themselves, and not only are you turning on autophagy, which uses your immune system to target the cancer cells and and to try to break them down and fight them and try to cannibalize those cancer cells for food and water for your healthy cells, but you're also taking away their food source, and you will end up actually, like, dramatic. There's a lot of studies in here that show this, that the your cancer cells will that cancer tumors will indeed shrink when you're dry fasting. Be- and not simply by because they get dehydrated, but because they actually get broken down, for food and for water. And so, and this is just just one of several benefits that you get from dry fasting. Where you give your gut time to heal, time to regrow things that it's lost, time to clean out waste, and time to clean out toxins. Like you will end up like detoxifying your body as well, and you feel amazing afterwards. Like I mean it's like a truly spiritual experience. And, like, it's no wonder to me that after I did my first 24-hour dry fast, it's no wonder to me that every single religion, really successful religion on earth, prescribed fasting, and not just any kind of fasting, a dry fasting. And this was actually in the Old Testament what the prophets would do in order to like receive visions from God. They had a method to it. It wasn't just like that God randomly showed up to some random guy. No, there was actually a method that would be used to create to you can use dry fasting to create DMT in your head, because your brain will create DMT naturally, and when you dry fast you end up raising its concentration in your head through a series of other metabolic processes. But you would have to dry fast for days and days and days at a time in order to build up that amount of DMT to where you would start receiving visions from God. But this is how the prophets would do it. They would eat a very high fat diet to prepare for it. Like a lot of lentils, which are very high in omega-3 fatty acids, and a lot of just fat, just regular animal fat. And that would prepare them for a long dry fast, because again, you use metabolic water when you're dry fasting. It's in order to do it. So so when I'm doing my dry fast, though, what I will do is, I'll have virtually no physical activity. The only real physical activity I do is a lot of showers and a lot of bathing, because one thing your body will try to do when you're dry fasting is, remember how we said that you're detoxifying your body, and you're getting all of these toxins out of your fat, out of your body, out of your cells, and because your body's going into cleaning mode. And well, what your body will try to do in order to expel these is, one, it'll try to put it through to your kidneys, so that, but there's only so much your kidneys can do with very little water. So what it will start to try to do is it'll start to try to push these toxins out through your skin. So what I do, and what you're supposed to do, it prescribes in this book, is you take a lot of baths and you take a lot of showers, like 3, 4 per day, in order to help your skin flush out all of these extra toxins that are getting excreted through your skin. And you feel amazing. Like, you get rid of heavy metals, you get rid of any toxic chemicals, you get rid of any dead cells that just aren't supposed to be there. You get rid of all sorts of things that are just that just toxic to you, and they're bad for your health. And yeah, you get rid of all the soy. but the but yeah, so when and afterwards you feel like a different person. I mean, because on one hand, I compare it a lot to like distance running, because I'm a cross country runner, or at least I used to be in high school. I don't really run distance too much anymore. And but there is when you're training to run 3, 4 miles, the in like under 20 minutes or something like that, you learn a lot about yourself really quick, because and you either drop out because it's too damn difficult. The amount of your body can run easily a marathon. Your body right now can probably run a marathon, depending on who you are. Unless you're like a real fatty, okay, that maybe not, but your body even as like a fat person could withstand 2 to 3 miles if you really really had to, and it could. And the thing is that you find out is that the pain really is all in your head. And once you learn mind over matter, and that's something that distance running will teach you. And you see, but you can get the same exact kind of mind over matter mental benefit with dry fasting, to where you learn that okay, all of this discomfort is all in my head, and it's not real. This is not and once you start to get a mastery of that, it goes away. the discomfort on the symptoms will go away. And they come back, but then you just focus on mind over matter and they go away. And particularly around mealtime. Meal times are the worst, but you get past them. And but but also what helps, and this is a shameless plug, is I found it this time. This is a sports cream from Paloma Verde CBD, because one thing I get when I'm dry fasting is headaches. Because you're dehydrated. And one thing that really helped this time was taking some of this sports cream that has CBD in it and just like rubbing it on my temples and rubbing it on my forehead, and that helps out quite a lot with the with not just the discomfort, but also the and the headaches. And but because it doesn't enter your GI tract, it doesn't break the fast. And that's what's so ingenious about these little CBD creams for when you're fasting. And by the way, promo code popular if you want to get 25% off your order over $75. And so, shameless plug. But no, seriously, this stuff really works if you're going to be attempting a dry fast. It works at alleviating a lot of the symptoms and making them a little bit more mild. And this is and so if I only went 48 hours this past time, but what helped, what what the Phoenix protocol is, it says it's for rapid healing and life extension. So one thing that I will notice about the healing aspect is like I get cysts on my back from just ingrown hairs, and I have them removed like every other year or so, and it's not really a big deal. But what will happen is, remember how we said that your cyst cells and your tumor cells and cancer cells cannot create metabolic water, and they need a constant source of sugar and protein in order to survive. Well, what will happen is, after a 24-hour dry fast, not even a 48-hour dry fast, is that all of the those cysts from the ingrown hairs on my back, they go away. Like right now, they're not there. They'll come back in 2 or 3 weeks, because they don't quite go all the way away. But that, within just 24 to 48 hours, they're gone. I mean, they're not there. I can feel, I've been feeling that, them on my back, and they're not there right now. And that's, something that will happen to cancer cells and tumor cells and everything else like that too. And your body will heal itself. It goes into healing mode. And actually, if you recognize that when you are sleeping, you're actually in a dry fasted state for 8 hours. So, and that's also one of the easiest ways to get through a dry fast, is to sleep most of it off. And there's only so much you can sleep, but it does make it easier. Like if you can go for 11, 12, no problem, that's great. It'll help you out great. And it really helps to pass the time. Other things that help to pass the time are like audiobooks and podcasts and stuff. And I was listening to the Dune audiobook this time around, and that really helped pass the time. And it takes your mind off of eating, because what you will find really quickly is that you will want to eat just for fun, just for something to do. And your body will play all sorts of tricks on you to try to get you to eat. And right around 16 hours in is the first time you're really going to get your body will tell you, like, what the fuck, Andrew, it's time to eat. Haven't you noticed the time? Wouldn't some food be good? And then right around 18 hours, you're like, no, this is wrong. You're supposed to have food. God intended it this way. Come on. And come on, Andrew. And you'll hear these, your body telling you, like, it's time to eat. This is not right. This is not the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to be fasting. We don't want to do this. And it's tough and difficult. And you just, put it out of your mind, and, and it will go away. Like I said, mind over matter. That, dry fasting is one of the easiest ways to learn mental discipline and willpower, and you'll practice your willpower. And, but, one of the things that will happen is, right around the 3-day mark, what your body will begin to, up until this point, at the 3-day mark, you've had quite a lot of autophagy going on, to where your body is like healing itself. It's getting rid of waste. It's getting rid of senescent cells. Those are old cells that, really need to just be cannibalized, for food and for parts. And this getting rid of toxins and all that. But right around the 3-day mark, I haven't gotten here yet, is when your body will start to turn on stem cells. And what will happen is that your body will start to actually create brand new young cells. And this is where you get the radical life extension from. And I should also point out there's also a kind of protein in your cells called sirtuins. And there's sirtuins like 1 through 7 are the ones we're really interested in. And what they do in the absence of water, and this is why you don't do what you don't have water when you are when you're fasting, because water will turn these off. What you want with sirtuins is to turn off the what you want with dry fasting is to turn on these sirtuins, because what they do is very interesting, and you can see this in experiments with mice and chimps and stuff like that. That with their cells, what you'll see them do is that okay, whenever you have DNA, that it has a wear and tear on it. There's cosmic radiation that will shred DNA. What your body will do in order to, prevent that shredded DNA from turning into cancers, will put a sort of it'll put like a sort of marker on it that's kind of like a break point, but it renders that DNA unusable. And you have to, that code portion of DNA, it can't code past it. So you end up creating a whole lot of malformed proteins. And this is like this, and your cell, and this causes your cells to age quite a lot. And what sirtuins will do is they'll end up removing that break point and repairing the break, properly. It's kind of like scar tissue. The scar tissue is, it's not, I have a scar from a surgery from a long time ago. Your body will start to remove that scar tissue on your DNA. And it uses sirtuins to do that. So it makes your DNA actually functionally younger. So remember that youth is not really a number. Youth is function. So if you're, like a 30-year-old, but you've been terrible to your body for your first 30 years, functionally, you're going to be a lot older than someone who was, maybe 40, but was really, really, really good to their body, for those first 40 years. And your body will start, but your body has this amazing ability to actually repair DNA and make it functionally younger, like lengthening telomeres and everything. And it uses sirtuins and stem cells to do that. And so, from days 1 through 3, you're actually turning on a whole lot of sirtuins in DNA repair. And you can actually test this. I think it's called the Hayflick limit, but there are tests for this that can say, hey, what's your genetic age? And you can do a before and after and show that, you can do it with like chimps and mice and stuff. And you can physically show that after a long extended dry fast, like with the Phoenix Protocol, that's this book. What you can show is that their DNA is actually younger. It will take years off of your life. And this is actually something that not quite the Bible, but the Book of Enoch, which is apocryphal, but it's, basically you hear this, Matthew Erickson talk about the Book of Enoch a lot when he's talking about like the Nephilim and the Watchers and pre-Genesis and all that. This is one thing that they prescribe. And by the way, fasting is done all throughout the Bible, all the time. But what it says is that a single day of dry fasting will take a year of sin off of your life. And what it means there is that a year of your mistakes of being bad to your body can be removed, through dry fasting, through this autophagy process, through the sirtuin process, through the stem cell process, and you can physically get younger this way. And obviously there's a limit to this, and what we've shown with like mice and with chimps and stuff is that when you are routinely dry fasting them, what it will do is it will extend their life span up to 25%. That's a lot. In the like in a normal human lifespan, if you were like, if you can only maybe live to be a centenarian to 100, if you were, dry fasting regularly from, year 1 to year 100, you can't start when you're a child. But, if you're starting when you're an adult and you're going through, all the way up to 100 and you're dry fasting regularly, you can expect to extend your life span a good decade or a good 2 decades. Now, maybe at that age you wouldn't want to, but, why not? And it's your healthy life, that you're really, really extending. So it's not, obviously, eventually you're going to die, but, you want to prolong it. You want to have a healthy life expectancy. And dry fasting is one really excellent way to do that, where you can, heal yourself quite a lot faster by engaging your body's basically your sleep recovery mode. Because when you're dry fasting, your body basically responds as if you're asleep. And so you're basically in sleep repair mode even when you're awake this entire time. It's as if what this is why you feel so much better after like a 24-hour dry fast, because it's as if you slept for 3 days. And even if you slept for 12 hours of that, and then you were awake for the next 12, it still feels, after you end the dry fast, it feels as if you slept for 3 days and you feel amazing. And so for a 48-hour dry fast, it feels like I slept for a week. And it's like I feel so rested. I feel so good. Yeah, and you'll see this. And but that, because that's what your body is actually doing, is when you're sleeping, you're in a dry fast because you're not eating or you're not eating or drinking anything for those 8 hours that you're asleep. Hopefully, if you're getting 8 hours, but that's actually what your body's doing. It's going into sleep repair mode while you're awake for the entire time. And so this is like the main reason why you feel so spiritual. You feel so much better afterwards. Is your body? It's as if your body slept for that entire time because you gave it a break from eating. Again, digestion is the single most calorie intensive thing that the human body can do. It's more than any kind of exercise. It's more than and basically anything. Digestion is the number one thing. So and the body has to divert resources in order to digest food. So when you take a break from that and you give your body a rest, you're giving your GI tract some time to rest and repair itself. Obviously, it's going to get substantially more efficient. And you'll see like a whole bunch of parasites that you might have, a whole bunch of bad bacteria you might have. These things all get, flushed out. They all get killed, and you feel great. And but that, what I said was that right around day 3, something really interesting starts to happen, and that's when your stem cells will turn on. And so your body will physically, start creating cells as if you were, basically a child again. It goes right back to like your child DNA and all that. Yeah, and and it turns on that production of stem cells that repair organs, that repair any sort of damage that's been done. They get rid of chronic illness. Like you will see chronic illness go away if you have any sort of like inflammatory bowel syndrome, or like I used to, I don't have it anymore, but because I healed it with dry fasting, but I used to have horrible blisters on the tips of my fingers due to high sugar and high insulin. And I'm like kind of pre-diabetic. It runs in the family no matter what I eat. Like if I eat full keto, and I do intermittent fasting and everything, I still have like over 100 on my blood glucose. And and before I realized that this was what was causing it, and I had the test, and I had went and got the test that proved it to me, I just had horrible psoriasis and blisters from eating sugar, and that was causing all of these bad problems, that due to an unknown and undiagnosed insulin resistance. And but by dry fasting and combining it with keto and all that, I was able to completely heal this. Like I used to like not quite be able to do my job because my fingers would just break open with blisters every time I tried to type on the keyboard. And but by dry fasting, I healed my hands, and that I healed all of the blisters, and I like the fingernails had fallen off. I used to not have fingernails because the psoriasis was so bad, but now they're all completely healed, and I don't and I'm back to normal again, and it feels amazing to have that kind of healing your body, to have that regenerative property to your body where you can regenerate any of these things that just get broken open and hurt but as I was saying, that's an inflammatory condition. Psoriasis and eczema and acne, these are all inflammation. And when you stop eating, your body will repair all of that very, very quickly. Like your acne will go away, your psoriasis will go away, any skin conditions you might have will go away. If you have like Crohn's disease, or you have like inflammatory bowel syndrome or something like that, that will all go away. All of your symptoms will disappear. And within 16 hours, you'll see major symptom relief, and it won't return for a little while. It does return, but but not for a little while. You'll buy yourself quite a lot of good time. And like the if you go for and the longer you go, the longer it will take for it to come back. And this has been like a revolutionary life change thing for me, to where I've adopted, I try to do at least one 24-hour dry fast per month. And, and if I have a longer vacation, then I will try to go for, longer, like a 36-hour or 48-hour dry fast. 48 is the longest I've ever been able to do. That's mostly due to a time constraint. It's like, because you cannot work, when you're dry fasting. It's just, it's too much. And there's no way to do it. So you actually have to physically take time off, from like work or something, to starve yourself basically. And a lot of people just don't want to do that. So what I just like, I'll do it on a weekend from like Friday night to Saturday. And and that's how I will, get that done. I start around 4 o'clock. And I should start, actually rewind. So what I will do prior to it is I will, for like the first 2 days prior, I will go into ketosis, because one of the worst things about fasting is that your body will go into keto. And when that transition process happens, you get something called the keto flu. And that's where your body is realizing that, oh, we don't have access to like sugar and carbohydrates like we usually do. And we need to start the transition process to start building ketone bodies to run your body's cells and all that. And but you start to get really uncomfortable headaches and flu-like symptoms, for good 5 or 6 hours, while that transition process is happening, where your body is transitioning from glucogenesis to ketogenesis. And and it's extremely uncomfortable. That's the reason why most people will break the fast right around 24 hours, is because that's when your body's really going to go into keto like hardcore, and you will get like the worst keto flu, when you're doing it. So what I do is I will go keto 2 days in advance. And so that by the time that I start the fast, I'm already in keto, and so I skip the hardest part. And so that makes the extended fast much more easy, much more symptom free. And that's something that it's not recommended in this book, but that's something that I adapted for myself, and it works really, really well. And so, like, when I'm in the fast, I will take, because your body is trying to excrete a lot of toxins through your skin. I will take 3 to 4 baths per day, and with a lot of extra scrubbing, in order to help clear that extracellular matrix and get all those toxins, out of the body, and help my body relieve all of that stress, all of those toxins, and release all of that. And so and you'll lose about 2 kilograms per day. Like, but when I started, a lot of that is fat, but a lot more of it is water. And so what you will, but it's about 2 kilograms, which is like 2.2 pounds. And so, but if you add keto in for the first 2 days, it'll actually go a lot quicker. You'll actually burn a lot more fat. So when I started the keto, for this was about a 4-day process for me, 2 days of keto and 2 days of dry fasting. I started around 191 pounds. And by the end of the dry fast on Sunday, I was at 182.6. And so, but once I started refeeding and having all of my water come back, I only went back up to like around one about what about like 186. So basically, I lost about 4 pounds of everything, most of which was fat, because my muscles are about the same size as they've always been. They didn't really change much, because one of the things that will happen when you dry fast, it will not happen if you water fast. If you water fast, you will not get the benefits of human growth hormone. One thing your body will do, and because again, this is a natural thing that we had for thousands of years. Remember, for thousands of years, we did not have 3 square meals a day, and we did not have water every single day. So there would be a lot of days where you were just de facto dry fasting, and it wasn't that you meant to, was that there just wasn't food and there wasn't water, and that was just normal. And so your body has evolved processes in order to prevent muscle loss and organ loss. During that time, one of the things it will do is it will triple the amount of human growth hormone in your blood, and in order to prevent muscle loss during a dry fast. So when it's releasing all of this growth hormone, it's you won't lose muscle. And but if you have a water fast, the growth hormone doesn't turn on, so you will start to lose a lot of muscle. You will start to lose a lot of organ. And but by dry fasting, not only do and but also, because remember, with water fasting, you're turning off the sirtuins and you're turning off the autophagy. Not quite off, but it's down by 300%. So when you're dry fasting, you get like 3 times the benefits. So like a 2-day dry fast is equivalent, has the health benefits that are equivalent to a 6-day water fast. And so, you get it done, you get all of the benefits in quite a lot less time. And you get with a lot fewer side effects and a lot, and so you and with less muscle loss, less organ loss, less hunger. Because when you drink water, what you're telling your body and you're telling your gut is, oh, time to eat. It's like really, and it will start to pour on the hormone that causes you to feel hunger. But when you're dry fasting, you won't do that, because it registers as if you're asleep. And that's like when you drink water first thing in the morning, that's when you start to feel the hunger. That's not like, you don't just like wake up and then automatically feel the hunger. No, it's when you drink the water that when some sort of food or liquid first enters your mouth and you swallow, that's when you start to feel like the hunger come on. And that's because you're waking up your body and you're telling it that it's time to eat. And so but your body will but that doesn't happen with dry fasting, so you skip a lot of the hunger pain too. There is some hunger pain, but it's much more mild. And I've done both, like wet fasting and dry fasting, and I can tell you hands down, dry fasting is, it's more intense, but it's substantially easier, and you don't get nearly as much of the side effects as you would get normally. And and so, you get so many more life extension benefits, so many more anti-inflammation benefits. If you have any sort of chronic illness due to inflammation, it will get rid of it, and it will banish it for like days at a time. And like, again, I told, for people who are just now joining, every now and then I will get cysts on my back from just ingrown hairs. Right now they're gone, because your cyst cells and your cancer cells and your tumor cells and all that, they cannot create metabolic water. And when you restrict your food and water to where it's zero, your body will start, it creates a Darwinian environment in your cells to where they will start fighting each other for resources. And of course, the strong cells win and the weak cells lose. And the weak links are invariably like cyst cells, cancer cells, and any sort of senescent cell that isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. They're going to be at the top of the list for cannibalization, and they're going to lose. So what you end up with is, you get rid, if you imagine like you're on, this is why it works with these tests that show that before and after of with like mice, that their DNA is actually younger, because what those tests do is they take an average of basically, like how much of your cells are senescent, what's that DNA look like, how many of them are young, what's that DNA look like, and it averages it all together. And when you get rid of the bad side of the average, that's like taking your score down, and you only leave the healthy cells that are left, you physically will look younger because you're increasing your odds that way. That's why it works that way. And then you add in the stem cell benefits, which are really young, like young cells. They're like, I mean, it's like back from the time you're a kid. That's what your stem cells look like. Now you're adding in really good cells, to your mix, and your DNA will physically register as a younger age. You will, you'll, and again, this has been, he has all of the studies in here that show this, and he goes through line by line, citation by citation, showing why these things work the way they do. And so, yeah, like I said, for the process is like, again, like I start 2 days of keto in advance to get over the keto flu. And then I spend 2 days actually doing the real fast. And I take lots of baths, and during that time I have virtually no sexual activity, because you just don't have the energy for it anyway. No physical activity. I'm basically staying on my bed for most all of the time. I'll get up and walk around and stretch and and all that to just stay a little active, but mostly I'm staying, really, very little talking because your mouth gets really, really dry. So I don't talk to my wife all that much. She doesn't like that very much, but she understands. She's done a dry fast with me once, and so she understands what I'm going through. and and then after the and I just listen to a lot of audiobooks and stuff to help pass the time, and I do a lot of extra sleeping. And by the end of it, it goes pretty quickly. And I mean that that's about it, and that's the entire process. Afterwards, I take a lot of antioxidants. I take a lot of glutathione. That's a very powerful antioxidant. I take a lot of fisetin, which is like an herb that's also an antioxidant, so extremely powerful. And in order to get rid of all of the free radicals that are now like going around in your body, due to the fasting and due to the catabolysis. And so that's the main thing that, and that you also take a lot of probiotics before and afterwards, and you take a lot of healthy algae pills for your body that helps restore your gut flora. And and then will eat, like, your first meal afterwards should be fairly keto, you should break the fast kind of slowly. You don't break it all at once. And like when I broke it, I started with water. You can go pretty quickly on water. I'll take like a salt pill with it to help my electrolytes back. And I will then I will eat like a whole bunch of cheese sticks and stuff, because those are keto, high fat, and very low carbs and sugar. And so I take those, and then like an hour, and then after like half an hour to an hour, at that point, then I can go have like a full meal that's pretty keto, like I had a barbecue, with my wife. And that was really, really excellent. And and that's another thing, is everything smells really good when you're dry fasting. And so that's just something to stay away from. Don't even look at food. Don't look at water. Put it out. Close the pantry. Tell your wife to go out to eat or whatever, and do whatever you can to avoid the thought and the sight of food. And that and but that's my whole dry fasting process. That's why I do it. And yeah, you also get a lot of spiritual benefits at the time. This is a wonderful way to lower your time preference and raise your willpower and your ability to tell yourself no and to defer gratification. It takes a lot of willpower to do, and it's tough. And it takes practice. You can't just walk right into it. Like, you're going to have to start training yourself to just the discipline for keto, and then you can try to add on intermittent fasting with it, to where you're restricting your eating cycle to like 8 hours a day instead of the normal like 13 or 14. And then you have to learn to go down to like one meal a day, to where you're only having like a 3 to 4 hour calorie window, which is really only enough time for one meal, maybe two smaller meals. And and then once you've kind of mastered that, at that point, you can easily attempt a 24-hour and a 24-hour dry fast. And going beyond that's a little difficult. The first but after you've done a few 24-hour dry fasts, then maybe try for a 36, because getting to sleep the first night is very difficult, because it screws with your circadian rhythm not to eat or drink any water, because your body doesn't know what's going on at first. And the but after you get past that circadian rhythm problem, the second day is pretty easy. And the second day actually passes quite a lot faster than the first. And so, I start like Friday night, and I ended Sunday night. And it was pretty easy. Was Friday at 8 o'clock to Sunday at 8 o'clock at night. And I feel amazing. I felt great. And so that's why I do it. And I think everyone, on the right should be doing this. It makes you more powerful. It makes you more strong. Raises your growth hormone levels. It lowers your genetic age. It lowers, heals your body of any, impurities. It detoxifies it. There's like a long list of benefits you get from if I'm just not eating anything. And a common not objection I get is, well, after 3 days, won't you die? And the answer is no. The reason why is that there's a big difference between just a little bit of water and zero, or just a little bit of water and a little bit of food and zero. What happens when it's zero is that your body will shut down a lot of high intensity, high energy, high calorie processes that dehydrate you faster. So in other words, you will dehydrate quite a lot slower at zero than you actually would at just a little bit. Because when you take that water, your body registers, oh, there's water available, and it'll start turning back on all of those water intensive processes, and so you'll dehydrate quicker. So yeah, your body can easily go like 6 or 7 days with zero, as long as you have very little activity, no sex, and no physical activity, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're at zero, there's a big difference between zero and non-zero, so to speak. And so that's a big so actually your body does have that capacity to go 7, 8, 9 days with no food, no water. I haven't done it, but I've gone 48 and my symptoms were pretty mild, very, very mild. And I probably could have gone for a third, but I just didn't want to. I had work to do. And my wife was like, Andrew, come on, take me out for food. It's like, all right, baby. It's like, it's one thing to fight my own voices in my head telling me I need to go get food. It's another thing to go to fight my wife along with them. So that's a little bit of an issue. But anyway, I want to end this by taking a few questions from from my supporting listeners group. And, as I do have a Subscribe Star, where the, basically, where I have, some of them are in here right now. If you have again, the name of that book is The Phoenix Protocol by August Dunning. I know this guy looks like Jeffrey Epstein, but that's actually the author. This is the author's face, not Jeffrey Epstein. So the Phoenix Protocol, dry fasting for rapid healing and radical life extension by August Dunning. Dunning, he's a former NASA scientist, and the way he developed this, was, he was tasked with like the Mars mission a while back for how do you get people to, because Mars is like a 2-year journey. If you're going to the moon and back, there's a lot of things we can do to protect astronauts to make sure that they're not going to get horrible radiation sickness or cancer or anything like that. And but if you're on a 2-year mission to Mars, there's not much we can do to really protect your DNA. It's one of the main reasons we haven't gone yet. So what he did was he developed this process. Remember, we talked about the sirtuins and how they actually will repair your DNA. He developed this as a way of getting around that. And so you could actually repair your DNA once you got to Mars. And you could repair it ahead of time, so that you were, you're already on better footing. You have a better starting point. But once you get there, at the end, you can also have a better ending point. And that way you will, that we would not lose, tons and tons of people to radiation sickness and cancer, once they got to Mars. And, so that's where this book came from. That's why this research was compiled. And so anyway, I want to take a few more questions from my supporting listeners group. The first one, is from Caleb. He asked me, what is the most important thing that Catholicism has taught me? And it's tough for me to only pick one. But if it was Catholicism, it was the emphasis on loving your neighbor as yourself, because you do get it from the Protestants, but it's not emphasized nearly at the level that the Catholics do it at, or the Eastern Orthodox, they do it too. And the reason is that, learning this behavior of love, which is a very, very particular kind of love. It's very specific about what it's talking about. Learning that is probably the single most important lesson I've learned from being Catholic, and because it really teaches you the importance of community, and it gets rid of this, what I feel is a really toxic idea of individualism that is, endemic to America. I mean, it's I regard individualism, just that term, as it really is a dirty word to me, because it imagines humanity in a very unnatural position to where it's just you and it's just about you. And if that's your only emphasis, and if you're not, understanding that you are a communal being, you were designed to be a communal being, like your whole concept of rights, is that, your whole concept of rights only has any meaning at all if there are other humans. So that's what that like right there, there's a problem with the trying to derive your idea of rights from the individual. Is that if you're imagining like natural rights, and theorists, they tend to imagine the individual in nature. It's like, well, I could talk and no one would and no one could stop me, so therefore I have a natural right to talk, and I can move around and no one would be there to stop me, so I have a right to freedom of movement and all that. And the problem with that is that that's the when you start imagining man by himself in nature, that's a dead man. That's a dead man walking, because you can't self-sustain yourself. But moreover, it's like, if there are no other humans, why do you need rights? They only have meaning in a communal context. So by trying to imagine rights as coming from the individual alone in nature, you actually, this is not a real thing. This is not realistic, and you're actually imagining a situation where you wouldn't need rights, so they don't exist. And so that's why I usually refer to natural order instead of natural rights, because in natural order it assumes that there's at least two people, so and that's so, and I get there from this idea of love your neighbor as yourself. I derive all of my belief in rights, all of my beliefs and responsibility from this idea of Christian love. I do not derive it from natural rights. And that's a big difference between me and a standard libertarian. Is that, and this is part of what I mean by a Christian hierarchy of values as part of the definition of Apraxian, is that we have a different conception of basically natural rights, or where rights come from and how they're derived. We don't do the standard natural rights theory. We do the natural order theory, which is very different. Right? Not that different, but it's very different than it's different as conception. And this is something that I derived from learning from Catholicism. This is something that it taught me. And so that's that one question. Another question I got was, hey Andrew, what do you feel about the woke military? And that was something I had to ponder about it for a while. And someone asked it a while back and I just didn't have an answer for it. But it's like, is this a good thing for liberty because it's delegitimizing the military in the eyes of the right? Or is it like a bad thing because now our enemies are holding out the guns? And I tend to think that it's actually the latter. It's bad for us. The number one defense, I think, if Texas were to secede tomorrow, the number one defense, that we would have against the state trying to, the federal government trying to declare war on Texas, is that a lot of the military men will lay down their weapons. They're not gonna shoot at a Texan. It's like, these are my people. I am not going to shoot my fellow countrymen just because they want to leave peacefully. That's like the so that was like the number one defense that I saw against the prospect of an American Civil War, is that most of the military is still comprised of mostly mostly right wingers who don't want to shoot peaceful right wingers. And whereas the like if they're a whole bunch of woke trannies and shit, and with two lesbian moms or whatever, they will have no problem pulling the trigger on the drone bomb, and to start blowing up Texan houses. That, so to me, having all of those weapons and all those military equipment in the hands of the woke is, even though they're weaker people, because there's just so much technology there that it makes their weakness not matter. That's the problem, with this, this wokening of the militaries. I think this is it's removing our one defense that we had against, against a potential civil war. So those are the two questions I got. If you would like to ask another question, go ahead and join my supporting listeners group, and you can ask your own question. And you don't even have to wait to the AMAs. I answer questions pretty much all week long from my normal people. Just about the anti-tax, about about archotropism, about natural order, about health and fasting, and my view of history. And I answer questions all week long. And I usually get very long answers, very very well typed out. So you will definitely get your money's worth. And so that's all for this AMA about dry fasting and and my supporting listeners group. Please join at subscribestar.com/popular-liberty. You can see that link below. Thank you very much, and I hope you will join me in about 20 minutes when I go into the Shark Tank and start talking to Jason Stapleton. Take care, y'all.